Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
Number 90 on the 49ers 91-man roster countdown for 2024 is Shaquelle Brown. One of the newest members of the team came in for a workout, and this is from Matt Barrow's quote, looked huge, ripped, end quote. This is a player that the 49ers have had their eyes on for 2 consecutive years. Coming out of Troy, he was an undrafted free agent last year that signed with the Titans. But the 49ers had an official visit with him last year before the draft. And there are rumors, I couldn't get this confirmed, that they did make an undrafted free agent offer to Shaquelle Brown last year, who did not get drafted. But he chose the Titans. Didn't work out with the Titans. Injured his ankle in one of the last preseason games. They put him on IR for the year. They waived him early May. 49ers had him in for a tryout. As soon as he was waived, signed him a day after the tryout. So this is a player, even though he's one of the most recent additions as a defensive tackle, really as any position, Shaquelle Brown is a Chris Kusarek guy. That's just what it is. You know, you look at what the 49ers did in the draft this year. They didn't draft one defensive lineman, edge or defensive tackle. They didn't. Then in the undrafted free agent class, they go out and spend the most money, guaranteed money for Evan Anderson, defensive tackle out of Florida Atlantic, and then they bring in Shaquelle Brown. They are betting very high that Evan Anderson, Kalia Davis, maybe he can make those next steps, or Shaquelle Brown will take that last roster spot. And we'll break down kind of what all that looks like on the depth chart for the defensive tackles, because they didn't add a lot of new guys. So undrafted free agent and workout players, these are the ones that are fighting. Now, got to give a huge shout out to Josh, Zach, and Dave helping. You know, they're the producers of this series and ranking 1 through 91. This is just players that matter the most on the 2024 season, postseason for the 49ers. And Shaquelle Brown came in after we started the process. So that's why he's at 90. I think probably 80s is where he would have landed if he was in that vote process, but we'll get to point totals and stuff. And again, more players are going to be cut, released, waived, additions, and we'll add them in accordingly. But that's why Shaquelle Brown comes in at 90. And we have 91 because of the international player pathway. We don't even know the number yet of Shaquelle Brown. I haven't seen that put out. Now, one thing that is cool, whenever I was watching his college tape, at Troy, he wore 21, which you see a defensive tackle wearing 21, it kind of jumps out. And I will say this dude is a freak. You heard the quote, jacked, ripped, whatever. That's who he is. 6'3", 295. That is the ideal height weight for the 49ers 3 technique, whether you're looking at Kevin Givens, Marcel Harris, who's gone now, Javon Hargrave, Kalia Davis. Like, they have a body type on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive tackle, 6'3", 300 pounds. That's what they want it to be. 32 and 1/8 inch arms. That's decent. He's 25 years old. Ran a 4.9 40 at 300 pounds. Pretty damn impressive. 173 10-yard, great. 7.5 3-cone, great. Change of direction is there. Probably his best metric, 30 bench press reps at 225 pounds. Upper body explosiveness at 32-inch arms, which is decent for a defensive tackle, and it translates. What do these metrics mean? It means what a player can do. And you go through the combine, all these different things, it's like, okay, this is what they can do. And whenever you see somebody with 30 bench press reps, you're like, oh, all right, that's some upper body strength. Now let's turn the tape on. Does that translate to his game? Yes, sir, it does. He is moving guys around, two-gapping consistently, and we'll get to the film portion here in a second. But let's learn why he's an undrafted free agent and wasn't drafted. He hasn't really played a lot. He's from Lincoln High School in Tallahassee, Florida. Did graduate with a social science degree and was a 2-star recruit. Now, he finished at Troy, but he had a long process to get to Troy. Born and raised Miami, Florida. Went to high school in Tallahassee, Florida. Now, he lettered in football and basketball in high school, but after high school, he had to go to Highlands Community College in 2018. Then he went to another community college. I'm going to mess this up. Idawamba Community College in 2019 before transferring to Troy, where he was for 3 years. Now, the problem was he was at Troy, he never really became the guy. He only started 5 games in his career in 3 years. Now he was a rotational player, a key rotational player, and his stats and highlights back that up. But how do you go from not even being able to start at Troy, which I'm not trying to paint Troy in a bad light because they get a lot of top-tier athletes. They are a very competitive school, but it's not like they're SEC whatever else. Troy's not those, even though they get a lot of similar athletes, which, I will say this. Shaquelle Brown fits that top-tier athletic mold whenever you look at his testing. Now, that's why he wasn't drafted. You don't have enough consistent tape. He didn't beat the guys out in front of him. He's a project player, explosive, twitchy. So let's dive into the film and kind of what I saw. He's a potential prospect. That's what he is. You're betting on the upper body strength. You're betting on the lower body speed and the height and weight. He just hasn't put it together yet. Can Kocurek get it out of him? This is a Kocurek guy. The GTFO that the 49ers measure from the defensive line, Shaquille Brown, check. They had the official 30 meeting with him. Unofficially, they offered him an undrafted free agent deal, even though he chose the Texans, which probably gave him more money. I'm just telling you. It's college tape. It's funny because the Niners have such a clear type defensively. You look at Bullocks, the safety DB coach, Holland, the linebacker coach, Kocurek, the D-line coach. They've been there for 5+ years, 6+ years. They know what they want out of these spots. This is exactly, Shaquille Brown, what Kocurek wants at the defensive tackle 3 technique spot. It looks just like Kalia Davis. High-energy player, just needs to develop consistency. He's at his best as a backside defensive end, chasing down the run game from the backside. That's where he just pops. Great effort, but again, rotational player. Can he maintain that? He's not going to be a starter for the 49ers this year. Yeah, that's long way. The height of the best possible situation for Shaquille Brown and the 49ers is to be that number 4 or 5 defensive tackle. In the past, the 49ers used to keep 4 defensive tackles. Lately, they've kept 5 on the active roster. Can he get into that top 5? I think for Shaquille Brown, you've got a year to develop practice squad type player that could possibly get into that number 5 rotation spot if there's an injury or something's going on. Very lethal punch. The upper body strength, 30 bench press reps, unbelievable. It translates. Slasher type, doesn't stay blocked for long. Looks like he's covered in grease. He'll pop up and then just slip off consistently and chase down plays, which I really, really, really do like. Now, you got to talk about injuries. Not a lot of tape. Was put on IR last season with an ankle injury with the Titans. But good news is he got an accrued season. That goes into retirement and all those different things. So he's on his way. He made $470,000 last year. My assumption is he's on another very low minimum deal with very low guaranteed. He's a tryout player. He was an undrafted free agent. He's kind of on his last track here. He might get one more chance in the future, but if he, for some reason, can't stick around on the practice squad here, this could be it. Which I hate to say, the average length in the NFL is 2.2 years. We all talk about Debo and CMC and all these other guys. To be honest with you, Shaquille Brown is probably much more of the mainstay of what actually happens in the NFL. These guys that stick around rookie training camps, that stick around, on the injured reserve, maybe practice squad, and then it's done. And so he made $470 last year, broke his ankle. I think it was a broken ankle. I could be wrong on that. I apologize on that one. But we got to see what he could do. Now, you look at the defensive tackle depth, and again, he's played 0 snaps in the NFL. He was never activated. 0. Only 5 career starts at Troy. He's got an uphill battle. Now, the defensive tackle depth, how many do they keep? 4 or 5 this year. We'll see. There's some locks. Javon Hargrave's making the roster, right? Collins is making the roster. Jordan Elliott making the roster. Kevin Givens, one of the longest tenured 49ers, is making the roster, period. So, there's a lot of defensive tackles. Listen to these names he's got to beat out. Kalia Davis, T.Y. McGill, Evan Anderson, Raymond Johnson III, Alex Barrett. Now, is Alex Barrett an edge? Is he a defensive tackle? Where are they going to put him? They've moved him so much this year. I think, personally, I would move Alex Barrett back to edge because I don't think you have the depth there that you have at the defensive tackle group on your roster. But could Shaquelle Brown pass Raymond James, Evan Anderson, T.Y. McGill, and maybe Kalia Davis? If you get 4 out of 5 of those guys, you beat them out, you might make this roster. But I do think Shaquelle Brown probably going to be cut, maybe be brought back to the practice squad. I really, really hope that he can impress and make his stamp on this team as that high, twitchy, explosive guy that can come in and get you 12 snaps a game. That's the ceiling for his 2024 outlook for the 49ers. Probable practice squad, actual, this might be it for him. So I'm hoping he impresses somebody so he could stick around. Oh, this is fun. We're going to keep doing the countdown. That's number 90, defensive tackle Shaquille Brown. And I'll say this, the whole goal is for you to learn these players through training camp so that the preseason is absolutely incredible. And when 1 or 2 of these back-end roster guys make it, that's where it gets exciting. Obviously we know the Brock Purdy story. He was pretty low on this. We had him in the, I think, 79 one year. We'll see what happens. But for us here, the 49ers Rush, we're just going to keep counting them down.